And 23 record the previous year, the Birds vaulted to an 18-11 mark and a share of the Missouri Valley Conference regular season crown. Head coach Bob Bender enters his fourth season at ISU after earning Missouri Valley Conference Coach of the Year honors for the miraculous 91-92 season. What will the new season hold for Coach Bender and the basketball Redbirds? We'll talk to the players and coaches tonight on Redbird Hoops, a preseason look. Welcome to our look at ISU's basketball Redbirds for 1992-93. And of course, we're going to start with the head man, Bob Bender, the Redbirds head basketball coach. And I was kidding, Bob, you're in your third year here. You're getting close to being dean of coaches in the Missouri Valley.
Well, we've had a little bit of turnover, Art, so all of a sudden just being in the league is what I feel a short time. Now, all of a sudden, other than Rich Herron and Southern,
yep.
Tate Slack and I are right behind him, and that's not a lot of experience between the two of us.
That speaks, I think, a little bit for the difficulty of the job. Coaching modern-day Division I basketball, the turnover is extreme.
Yeah, you know what? That is probably one of the pitfalls of coaching. You know, you are only remembered for your last success and those things, but probably it's a point, Art, that's caused the Valley to go through the dip that we've gone through, and now with some stability, hopefully, for the coaching jobs and the young kids coming back, maybe that's a good. Valley starts creeping back up nationally.
Before we talk about your Redbirds, do you expect the Missouri to be stronger top to bottom this year?
I do. I think you've got 4 teams that can all challenge for the championship. I think Southern's got to be the clear-cut favorite. Then you got, with the returning veterans, Tulsa, ourselves, Southwest Missouri State. Traditionally, though, the Valley's always had a team that rises above expectations, and so there's going to be a team that's going to come in and make their name this year in that position. But by the end of the season, the young teams in the Valley, I think of Bradley and Drake, Wichita State, is to Scott Thompson and the coaching change. All of a sudden, top to bottom, you don't have an easy game.
Yeah. The league needs to win a couple of NCAA tournament games, don't they? To get that monkey off their back. You were so close with Michigan a couple of years ago. People have been close in that first round. But you have to get a little better draw, don't you?
Well, there's 2 things that have to happen, I think. One is our conference overall has to have a winning record and a sizable winning record in the non-conference season. That's number one.
Which means the month of December, by and large, is pretty important.
It's very important. Secondly, if we do that, then we've got some teams that are above 20 wins, and your runner-ups and in the tournament, maybe your runner-up in the regular season, depending on who then goes on and wins the championship in the tournament, has a potential getting into the NCAA as an at-large bid. That's when we might get a better seed. You know, Creighton was able a year ago to win their first-round game 2 years ago and get into that second round. Those things will help, but I really think, and as coaches, we all are in agreement, we have to really be successful in the non-conference.
Let's talk about the Redbirds. This is a veteran basketball team, the most veteran team you've had. Maybe the first year you had quite a few veterans, but they had to learn a new system, new style of play when you first came in as head coach. But this is a team with experience. Now you've supplemented with some interesting newcomers. Let's go directly to the guy in the middle, the newcomer Hunter, who has come in to replace certainly a ball player that you could miss.
Well, Scott Fowler had a great year last year, having come off an injury. He's the type of Thomas is the type of player that can do some of the things that Scott did.
That was Thomas Hunter, right?
Right, Thomas Hunter. He's a strong inside player who should help us rebound the basketball, play good post defense, and give us a presence inside offensively. That's what we miss in Scott Fowler. So he's picking things up quickly now to carry him over into a game setting. Junior college players in our program have had some success, but the most important thing is for him to be able to be a consistent performer, and that's what we trying to replace with a senior who had started for 3 years basically.
Let's stick with the post for just a moment. Probably Hunter is less a legitimate postman than would be Brian Kern. How's Kern developed?
Well, Brian had a real good summer, and I think that he's an improved player. Brian is right now has to step up in the things that aren't as natural for Brian. He can shoot the basketball, and his scoring in his second year will come because of experience. But the things like rebounding, he's got to be more of a threat and a contributor on the glass on both ends. And then defensively, he's going to be playing against people that he should be able to cover, guys that are playing their back to the basket. So that's the area that we're expecting Brian to show his greatest improvement in.
Mike Vandegaard, I think, was probably your most exciting ball player in many games last year. He's a junior, hit about 6'8", maybe even a shade over that, but he didn't start. You had a great use out of Vandegaard. He was one of those kids comes off the bench and just ignited you. What's his role going to be this year?
Well, Art, last year he was certainly capable of starting and good enough, and
nobody argued that,
and probably could have earned, actually deserved to start. But he accepted a role that you have to have on a successful team, and somebody that will come off the bench, because many times Mike may not start the game but plays more minutes than anybody else. This year, there's no question. I'm sure he's going to start off the game. But it's kind of interesting because now he can't have a silly foul early on in the game because now his limits, his team, his minutes are going to be limited. So we expect the same type of enthusiasm, the same type of effort from Mike, but he has to be more disciplined and not trying to block every shot so that he doesn't pick up a silly second foul and we got to sit him for a portion of the first half.
Let's look at the other forward positions, and then we'll get to the backcourt. But who are you considering power forwards? Vandegaard certainly would fall in that category. Who would back him?
Well, I think that, we look at it this way, Art, is we've got groups of players. We look at Vandegaard, Kern, and Thomas Hunter as inside players, whether they be back to the basket facing or power moves. Then we've got what we would call small forwards, or guys that can step out on the perimeter, and that would be Scott Taylor, Steve Fitch, Chuck Barnes, and John Litweiler and Andy Hawkins, two newcomers. Then our backcourt we look at as Thomas, Cagle, Wayne Hainer, Altadonna, and Antonio Cooper. And the combinations that you play with from those groups can be very interesting. But that's how we kind of characterize our team right now. And what we're looking for is production from within those groups. The individuals certainly have to produce, but we've got to be able to look after every game and say, hey, our perimeters, they had this many assists, the shooting percentage was this, and then as opposed to the opposition.
You have a little better stats to go on this year you did last year, don't you?
Yeah, the stats are, at least they're on that positive side.
Pluses.
They're not in that red area. They're on the black now, I guess.
Yeah, you can look at those stats and say, hey, these guys made a definite contribution. But, if this club can come around and win another Valley title, and maybe make a little postseason run. What a credit it is to the young men and to your staff, but particularly to the young guys who endured that terrible season. Came back roaring last year, and just a couple of wins away from taking it all last year.
Well, they were, they were all kids who had won in high school, so we never doubted their desire to win. It was a matter of them understanding how to win at this level. And once they got that in their head and the experience of doing it night after night, last year's success wasn't unexpected. It's always a challenge every year, Art. As you well know, you've been covering athletics for so long. Every year is different, whether the players are the same or not, because you work on the game itself in practice, and through the games you keep trying to get better. But the intangible parts are usually what measure your ultimate success. You avoid injuries. Are the kids still in tune with each other? And those things you don't control. So that's the challenge of this team, to understand they can't play like they did last year.
I think the key many times, particularly at Illinois State, the years I've been around Illinois State, is the ability to get intense for individual ball games. I think when ISU teams have gotten in trouble, traditionally, is when they either coast a little bit or maybe aren't as mentally prepared. This is a tremendous coaching challenge. You fought it. Everybody's fought it. But when these kids are ready to play, they can play with anybody.
Well, that's the interesting part of being in a position where in your schedule there are certain games kids naturally know about that are supposed to be big games.
And they'll be ready for those.
Right. That's a given. But what the challenge for a coach is to know how ready mentally and I think focused in on the next opponent, when maybe that's the game where they think I can take a little bit of a mental siesta. Can I, I don't have to, my effort doesn't maybe necessarily have to be good, because we can always pull it out. Those are the nights you worry about.
You got two games that interest me a great deal fairly early in the season that point out just what you're talking about. The Butler game here, second game of the season. Butler, very, very good program. Beat you last year over in Indianapolis, but that's a game I think you're going to be able to take a little intensity reading. And the game at Evansville. Jimmy Cruz, the old U-High standout, coach at Evansville, I see they're picked to win their conference title. Those are 2 ball games early that have no significance on the conference race whatsoever, but they'll probably answer some questions for you.
Well, they will. You know, our first 3 ball games of the year, 2 of those people were in postseason play. You know, with Butler, it's a team that was in the NIT last year, beat us over in Indianapolis, very well coached, good skilled people as any of the Indiana schools traditionally are, and we're at home. Now, can we come out with the idea that, hey, we're going to get off to a good start? It goes back to what we talked about, the non-conference schedule, having a winning record. And then to go to Evansville, our first road trip against a team that's picked to win the MCC and also was in the NCAA last year. And is a team that has as much experience, if not more, than we do.
And they wear the short sleeve jersey, and you play them in Roberts Arena, so that'll be interesting.
You know, you and I know the significance of that, you know, and if they came out in the Capes, it'd even be better for warming up. But there's so much tradition there. That's one thing I think in preparation for that game, Art, that we're really going to highlight is that we're going to play at a great place, and this is a team that you have to understand has great tradition. This should be an exciting moment for us.
You talk about a hostile crowd. They're tough in that town.
Yeah, they take their basketball.
Bob, you and I have been talking like this since you played high school ball at Bloomington. We could go on forever and ever, but let me ask you one more question and we'll get on with the show. You made a very interesting European trip this summer. Just highlight where you went for us, and what does that mean to your ball club?
Well, we made a 12-day trip over to Europe. We started in England, played 2 games there, then moved over to Belgium and played our remaining 6 there. There was a trip where the most important thing to accomplish is for the kids to come closer together. Right. They need to get to know each other better, depend on each other, and I think we accomplished that.
Well, of course, that's why people take those trips for years.
Exactly. You know, it gives us a chance for especially Chad Altadonna, Brian Kern to play more minutes. For Chuck Barnes, who's going into his junior year, this was an important step for him to take in his production, and I think those kids took advantage of it.
One other kid, it was an important trip for Todd Wimhander, wasn't it? Because we know he can play defense, but I understand his shooting brightened up a little bit.
Yeah, I think his confidence of shooting the basketball art really got much stronger from the European trip, and he's carried it over to this year thus far in practice. I've been real pleased with how his willingness, 1, to take the shot, number 2, when he shoots it, he expects it to go in.
Well, you got me fired up. I don't fire very easy anymore. You got me fired up. Hey, Bob, good talking to you. Good luck to you. Have a big year.
Thanks, Art.
ISU's head basketball coach Bob Bender. We'll be back with more on this Look at the Redbirds in just a moment.
When we return, we'll talk with ISU assistant coach Jay Lowenthal. Jay Lowenthal enters his 4th year as an assistant coach at Illinois State. Lowenthal left his Division II head coaching position at Quincy College to join Bob Bender's staff in 1989. A Pontiac, Illinois native, Jay spent his collegiate basketball days at Vanderbilt.
Our guest is ISU assistant coach Jay Lowenthal, and Jay, we're kidding Bob Bender a little bit. Going into this season, statistically, you have a little more to look forward to than the stats coming off a year ago, don't you?
Well, I think that's what experience will get you. You know, our first year, I should say our first recruiting class, obviously very, very young, and with as many seniors as we had in our first full season here at Illinois State. And we're in a different situation, and it's a little bit more fun going into a season this year than it has been sometimes.
You know, I think a lot of fans think back to the unfortunate evening last year when Bob went down, a little illness during the game, and you stepped in, and you and Billy King ran the ball club. And also, Mr. Bertholz, the official, was injured that night, tore up an elbow. Fortunately, it was no more serious than that. But I think Jay Lowenthal popped into the limelight with more casual ISU fans and suddenly said, hey, there's the assistant coach. He's doing a great job. That speaks a lot for the program, doesn't it?
Well, thank you. I think so. I'm very happy with all of our staff. I think Bob did a great job of assembling people around him to help support the skills and abilities and qualities that he has as a head coach, and I feel very fortunate to be here. But Billy and Ray do a great job, and I'm very excited with our staff and the knowledge that we have compared to other people in the league and then in other parts of the country as well.
You have to do a lot of teaching, don't you, Jay? Particularly the first year here. A lot of kids who never played collegiate basketball. And then even last year, but you're constantly teaching.
Well, it's teaching from the standpoint of constantly refining things and re-emphasizing things. You know, if you're a college professor, you're still teaching even though students have been in school for maybe 10 or 12 years, whatever age it is as they get there, and doing different things. It's just refining the skills that they have, teaching new methods. Basketball is like a lot of other things. It changes. It continually evolves.
Give me my next question. You played at Pontiac High School, went down to Vandy and played down there. Has the game changed noticeably from your playing days?
I think the game's a faster game, and I think the game is more physical than what it used to be. And that just is, I think, a result of the accomplishments that people have received and gained in the weight room as much as anything as far as the strength is concerned. And then in pickup games and just as the game of basketball has evolved out on the playgrounds and in the summer times with different things, it's become a faster game.
You weren't the benefactor of the three-point shot, were you?
No, I was not a benefactor of a three-point shot, unfortunately.
That's changed the game tremendously, hasn't it?
The three-point shot is very, very different and creates so much more space and openings, not only on the perimeter, but also inside, because it has opened some things. And I think that's what it was designed to do, is to help open.
Has it almost eliminated certain types of zone defenses? The 1-3-1, for example, difficult to play against good three-point shooters.
Difficult to play unless you're willing to stretch some things out and give some things up. You know, in any defense that you play, you're going to give something up. You just can't cover everything. So as a coaching staff, I think you make your decisions as to what you're going to be willing to give up and how you're going to rotate to cover the things that you do give up once they're exposed.
What's the Jay Lowenthal real down deep feeling about this basketball team? How do you feel about it going into a new season?
I have a very good feeling about this team. I think all of us do, and there's some guarded anticipation because the team was not very successful as new players in our program and some of the returning players at that time 2 years ago, and some of those guys have graduated with Reggie Wilson and Scott Fowler and Elton Flores and Antoine Hicks and those guys. But I think we're guardedly optimistic because you never know how a group is going to respond after coming off of such a successful season. Are they going to become fat cats and kind of just rest on their laurels and think that things are going to be easy, or are they going to just kind of tighten the screws a little bit more and work that much harder to achieve just a little bit more even than what they did last year?
You got a good coaching point in the month of December. This wasn't a particularly good basketball team in December last year and really came on after the first of the year, after the holiday tournaments. I imagine you'll remind the kids of that a few times. You like to get out of the blocks quickly?
Well, we would like to get out of the blocks quickly. I think that helps build confidence. It's easier to get some things accomplished at both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively. But at the same time, realistically, I think our non-conference schedule is a little bit more competitive this year than it was last year. So it will be more difficult to get out of the blocks quickly.
And you'll have to be better early.
We will have to be better early, and there's less time to prepare this year with the start of practice being pushed back from October 15th to November 1st.
Has that hurt much, you think?
Well, I think it hurts in any situation because you don't have as much time to prepare to reinforce the repetition of drills and practice and what you want to try and get accomplished. We've put a couple of wrinkles in, nothing fancy or nothing extensive, but enough new wrinkles that things are different even for the veterans. So the new players have to learn the things that we've always taught the veterans, plus some new things, and the veterans have to be willing to make some adjustments yet this year also.
This year, did the European trip this summer perhaps make up a little bit for that later start of practice?
I think so. To a certain extent, I think it was able for us, it allowed us to reinforce some of the old. We did try a little bit of the new things that we had talked about, and I think the players
At least team
receptive.
togetherness, it certainly had to help that.
That was, if there's one highlight of the whole European trip, you just hit it, Art, and that is the togetherness that it brought the team and showed, I think, each of the players that were on the trip that they are dependent upon the other players.
Unless things have changed since I traveled with ISU, waiting in airports makes for a lot of camaraderie, or it can make for a lot of problems. I mean, the kids had better get along.
You're right. Fortunately,
That hasn't
this year,
changed, huh?
No, that hasn't changed. Although
You
we
notice,
really have to wait.
you notice I haven't volunteered to make any plane trips on the road with you.
Well, actually, if everything could go this smoothly during the season as it did for our travel overseas, people wouldn't know Illinois State basketball. It was great.
Hey, it's easier to fly to Europe and Poughkeepsie.
You're right. You're right. That may have something to do with it.
Hey, Jay, great to have you with us, and have a big year.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations for a job well done.
Thank you.
ISU assistant coach Jay Lowenthal. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
When we return, we'll talk with Redbird assistant coach Billy Kay. King joined the staff at ISU upon the arrival of head coach Bob Bender. King starred at Duke University during the mid-1980s, while Bender was an assistant coach under Mike Krzyzewski. Billy was named National Defensive Player of the Year in 1988 as a senior for the Blue Devils, and later went on to ESPN as a color analyst before coming to Illinois State.
With ISU assistant coach Billy King, and Billy, gosh, you're a veteran coach now at this program. It seems like you just came in yesterday, but this is what, your third year, isn't it?
I actually started the fourth.
Yeah?
Started the fourth, so it's been good. It's lost a little hair, but overall it's been fun.
And you're talking to guys that are expert at losing hair. Yeah. Billy, what is your primary responsibility with this program? Let's say away from the practice floor. What do you spend most of your time with?
A lot of times I do end up talking with the players and trying to get some feedback for them that might give some insight on what they're doing. For my age-wise, I'm the closest to them age-wise.
Little one-on-one type of thing. Huh?
Exactly. So I spend a lot of time in talking to them and try to get a feel for where they are as players in their minds, and trying to get a feel so that in the staff meeting I can say, well, geez, I'm talking to some of the players that are really confused. We need to explain that point a little more.
Are kids that you have in the program now materially different than you were in college at the same age?
I don't think so. I think at this age, there are a lot of things they want to do and a lot of things they think they can do that sometimes they can't. And you don't realize that until you have gone on the other side or you've gotten older and gotten away from it. There's some times where they just think they're Superman, where they're not to eat right. Perfect example last night at the training table. There's pasta there, there's roast beef, and there's fish, and Andy Hawkins says, I got to give me a good meal at McDonald's. So you start,
not the idea.
Yeah, so you start to want and those things of that nature. So I think they're a lot the same when I was in
What is the routine? Training table. I think a lot of people know on the road, obviously, eat together. Is there a regular routine on that during the week?
Well, Monday through Fridays, the players eat at Tri-Towers. There's a training meal there. They eat basically what they're doing from food, but they eat together. And as being a bachelor that I am, I tend to join them also.
That works out well. So if a kid needed a special diet or something, that could be accommodated that way.
We could try to do that. Yeah, they spend time with the nutritionist. Matter of fact, she's going to come in and talk with them.
You try to take a couple of pounds off a guy once in a while.
Some guys, it may not be just poundage, maybe to decrease their body fat, maybe to increase their weight, and that's done with also with the weight gain measures in the weight room. Also, there's some meal supplements that guys like Scott Taylor. He finally reached the 200 plateau.
He's got a 200 now.
Well, he was a couple weeks ago. I think he's below that now.
You ran him a little bit.
Yeah.
Billy, obviously on the floor, I mean, you work with all areas, but it seems to me watching practices, defense, which was your forte, is one thing you work on very hard with kids. Individual defense and techniques. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, I think that's something that came natural for me at Duke, and I learned some hard work, and I try to look and see, give some insight, maybe give a guy a pointer who thinks he may be too slow, which he's not. He's just not doing the proper technique. The one thing that I try to relate to him is that it's not one guy trying to stop another person out there. It's the one guy with four guys behind him helping.
All defenses, really, when you get down to it, have some zone concept to them, don't you? Because it's a help situation.
Exactly.
And yet, on the other hand, I think a lot of people think that defensive players are necessarily gifted with great quickness to be good defensively, but it's really a position game, isn't it?
It is, and it's where it all comes from is right here in the heart. I mean, anybody can play defense and set their mind to it. Not everybody's a great shooter, as testimony by my stats in college, but I mean, anybody can play defense and set your mind to it, and you've got to have that mindset that I want to be a good defense player, or I want to be a great defense player. If you just want to be mediocre, you're going to be mediocre.
Most kids come out of high school or out of junior college offensive players.
Exactly, or they come out of high school programs where they were the best player and they weren't put on the other best player. They were saved for the offensive game, so they don't have the mindset that I've got to play defense each and every night, because at this level you've got to pick your intensity up because every night you're going to get somebody who's just as good as you were in high school.
How about the big guys? What kind of defense do you teach a guy like Kern or let's say Hunter, or when we had Scott Fowler last year? That's an entirely different game in the whole, isn't it?
It is, and a lot of them they look at the NBA and think that's how they got to play post defense, just leaning and beating on someone, but you can't. And even in the post, you got to do the same thing during the perimeter, is you have to move your feet, and I think that's where some of our guys get in trouble, where they want to lean on a guy, and when you do that, you give the offensive player the advantage because they know exactly where you are.
Officiating has to be frustrating to a guy that emphasizes defense like yourself. You can have a kid playing his head off out there defensively, get a couple of bad calls. What do you tell the guy in that situation? Just hang in there, that tide will turn?
Well, the one thing you got to realize is that the officials aren't perfect. They're going to make mistakes just like on the court. The players make mistakes. they've got to not let that become the problem.
Yeah.
That the referees, he's out there picking on me. And sometimes if you do get a couple fouls early, you may have to relax your intensity.
Usually most officials will pick on the other guy before the night's over.
Exactly. And what I try to always do when I played is try to go into the halftime with 4 fouls or 5 fouls to give. So that way, the second half,
you can go after
and pick it up the intensity a little bit. And so that's and you can't pick up the silly fouls. That's where a lot of guys get themselves in trouble. They'll reach for no purpose and get a foul.
Yeah.
If you get a foul because you got to go over and clobber a guy because he's got open layup, then
that's one thing.
That's one thing. But if it's a silly foul for reaching, then you wasted a foul.
Who would you rate as ISU's best backcourt defender right now?
I'd say Todd Montana.
Todd, yeah, that's his career. How about inside?
Inside, I'd have to go Mike Vandegaard when he's being disciplined, when he's taking the charge, and when he's giving help, and when he's trying to block shots. Even though he led the Valley in block shots, that's almost a last resort for our defense, and he can't rely on that. But when he's being disciplined, he does a great job.
Vandegaard, heck of a talent, isn't he?
He is, and he's getting better. And when he keeps it simple, he's really good. It's when he gets out of character sometimes he gets in trouble.
Yeah, some basketball players, they talk about creating things. Some become a bit too creative from
exactly. There's only one great creator, and he's up
that's right.
2 hours
right.
north.
Absolutely.
Michael Jordan.
Billy, it's great to talk with you. A lot of interesting insight. We haven't really broken down these subjects before, but I guess the final question, I'll ask you the same thing I asked Bob and Jay. What's your real gut feeling about this basketball team? How good could they be?
I think this team can be very good if they rely on each person individually. If all 14 guys and the coaching staff are all working on the same wavelength, there's no telling how far we can go. But if 2 guys have their own agenda, or 1 guy has their own agenda, then we're not going to be a good basketball team. But I think there should be good things happening for this team with a lot of hard work.
Billy, thank you so much. Great talking to you. Have a big year.
Thank you.
Billy King, ISU assistant coach, another of our guests. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
When we return, we'll talk with ISU assistant coach Ray Giacoletti. Second one misses. ISU's out of timeouts. 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Thomas from the twilight zone is there. It's there, and the Redbirds have won it. That was down all the way. They're mobbing Richard Thomas. Ray Giacoletti joined Bob Binder's staff in May of 1989. Prior to joining the Birds, Ray was an assistant coach and director of player personnel for the Fresno Flames of the World Basketball League. He also served as a regional scout for the Seattle Supersonics of the NBA. The Peoria native and East Peoria High School product played college basketball at Minot State before graduating in 1985.
Our next guest is ISU assistant coach Ray Giacoletti, and I think certainly the Redbird fans know Ray very, very well. You've been on the staff throughout the Bob Binder tenure here, and I would say probably, Ray, not to put words in your mouth, but this has got to be the most optimistic outlook to the season you've had, isn't it?
Oh, I think without a doubt. I mean, it's the most returning letterman we've had since we've been here. We have kids that have playing experience coming back. And it's that first class that Coach Bender brought in here, those kids are now juniors now. And so they've been in the program. This will be their 3rd year in the program.
You approach it differently, of course, with the veteran ball club than you do with a bunch of rookies out there. Have been able to put things in a little more quickly, given the fact you also had the veterans in the summer because of the European trip.
Right. I think you put things in quickly, and hopefully that they are able to pick up more quickly on the different things out there. It's been a little bit easier with the drills and that type of thing. You can really tell with the young kids to the veterans in the group, but you hope that you come along a little bit more quickly also. Now, I don't know if we've done that as well as Coach Ben and the
You don't know the whistle blows, do you?
Right.
Really? Ray, you do a lot of in-person scouting, don't you? Let's talk about the Missouri Valley Conference, some of the hostile arenas. Our viewers here, most of them don't see ISU on the road. If they do, it's only on occasion. Outside of Redbird Arena, you have a favorite arena in this league where you like to go?
I think Southwest Missouri is probably, you talk about an environment for basketball, it's got to be as good as anybody. They have, I don't know how many years in a row, sellouts down there.
And the Hammond Center down there.
Yeah.
Fairly cozy confine.
Very much so, yeah. It probably seats 8,500 people, and they have the band right down there. And they have a group they call the Hair Bear Group, and it's as good an environment as any in the Valley.
Let me just mention a few schools to you and kind of give me a reaction to going into their place. How about Southern Illinois?
Well, Southern, just because of the rivalry, I guess, since we've been here, is always a place that you can get up for very easily. And it's a little bit different environment down there because it's a little bit darker, it seems to me anyway, as every time we go in there. It seems like there needs to be another set of lights turned on or something.
I hear you. I agree with that. What about Creighton?
Creighton is more wide open of an area.
It's a civic arena, too.
Yeah, you don't really have like the friendly confines of a home court on campus facility, I don't think, in
Tulsa?
Omaha. Tulsa has been a little bit up and down. I think last year it was more. See, the times we went in there, it's been a little bit different because the one year we went in there, we had the fog, and we were delayed the entire day, and so we actually got to Tulsa like at 7:30 that night, went right to the arena and played.
The arena itself, anything unusual about it?
Oh, I don't think so. I think with Coach Smith there now, it's more of a home court environment. And
Tell me you'll get them fired up.
Yeah, the people were really excited, I think, this past year.
Then we go to a new arena at Drake, right?
Yeah, and we don't know anything about that. I'm sure it'll help their program, without a doubt. You know, Vets Auditorium was so big, and there was a curtain going down through 3/4 of it, and I'm sure the on-campus feel just.
You know, it's interesting. The Missouri Valley Conference basically is an inner-city league. The way it started, you had Louisville, you had Cincinnati, and of course you had people of that sort. And now it's become more an on-campus environment. The only city school really left would be Tulsa, I guess.
Right.
But what do you look for when you do in-person scouting? What does Coach Bender want when you come back?
Well, I think the things that you look for when you go out and see somebody play in person that you can't get from tape are verbal calls. Calls that the coaches make from the bench, verbal calls that the players on the floor are making, and what sets they're going to get into. You know, just a general feel of the tempo of the game and the environment.
Will you come back with specific recommendations on man-to-man defensive assignments, for example?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, tape is nice getting sets and that type of thing, but you can't get as good a feel for how quick a kid is.
So when you see a kid at Tulsa and you come back and say to Coach Bender and the rest of the staff, I think Wim Hader should take him, Richard Thomas should take the other guard, and so forth and so on.
Without a doubt. You just get a better feel in person than you do from tape. And once you get a feel like that, you can go back to the tape and you see a little bit more once you go back and review other tapes.
So Ray Giacoletti's probably the most traveled guy on the staff.
Oh, just in the scouting end of it. I mean, Billy and Jay, I mean, are going, you know,
the recruiting trips are
recruiting, right? And the scouting is split up. You know, it's split up pretty evenly now.
I haven't talked to any of the coaches on the staff, Ray, about recruiting at all in this particular show, but just an overall comment. ISU, how competitive are the Redbirds, basketball-wise, in recruiting based on what you've seen?
Oh, I mean, we're as competitive as anybody in the state. The thing, I think, with Coach Bender, I don't think we have a whole lot of wasted effort on people. I mean, you know, everybody wants to know, why can't you get the blue chip? Well, I mean, you don't want to waste all your time if you can't get involved with a certain player. You got to channel your work ethic.
How do you define blue chipper? You know, that's another thing. Depends on your program, what your needs are.
Exactly. I mean, your needs every year are different. I mean, one year you're going to want to go out and get a high school point guard, and the next year you think maybe there's a need for a junior college post player or something like that. Your needs change every year.
You would have liked to have had Chris Collins, for example, who ended up at Duke, Doug's son, but on the other hand, in this program, being realistic, good, tough inside player was a greater need.
Sure. And, you know, I think
2 or 3 years down the road, you wish you had Chris, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that's another great example. I mean, you know, I think we were as involved as anybody with Chris through his junior year, but as he becomes a senior, that list narrows a little bit, and you're involved with Duke and Illinois and some of those people. And, you know, Duke's a great situation for Chris.
Oh, yeah. Very interesting, Ray. One final question. Look at Redbird Arena right around us. It's got to be a tremendous selling point. Without
a doubt. I mean, I think you can really tell when you bring recruits on campus and they walk through that tunnel and they look up and go, my word, yeah. You don't have to say any more. I mean, just walking in the building with all the seats out and it's set up for game night is a very impressive arena.
I got a kick out of the new coach in Wisconsin, Coach Jackson, up there of course, is battling and recruiting that ancient arena of
Sure.
Madison. I see his approach now. He gets kids in there and they look around. He says, yeah, this is old, probably the oldest building in the Big Ten, but reminds you a lot of Chicago Stadium.
I read that the other day, too.
That's a great approach.
It
isn't
really is. If the Bulls can play there,
Yeah,
why
right.
can't the Badgers?
I bring that up because you coaches better be creative.
Exactly. Exactly.
You make do with what you have. Hey, Ray, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the visit. Always good talking
Thanks
to
for
you.
having
So we
me.
have a big year.
I hope so, too. Thanks so
ISU
much.
assistant coach Ray Giacoletti. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
When we come back, we'll talk to the players and find out how they're approaching the 1992-93 basketball season. The Birds have a mix of youth and experience at the guard position this season. Senior Richard Thomas returns as one of the most experienced point guards in the Missouri Valley. The Chicago native has started 81 of a possible 86 games in his ISU career and has played on 2 MVC championship teams. Thomas is a quick defender and dangerous passer and has improved his three-point shot. Thomas was a second-team All-Missouri Valley Conference choice last season and earned first-team All-MVC defensive honors. He's averaged over 9 points and 3 assists per game in his 3 years at ISU. Richard is a co-captain of the Redbirds this season. Richard, is this a better team than it was a year ago, you think?
I think it is. I think there's a better attitude, a better competition within the team, which is pushing everybody. So I think it's going to make us a better team.
The defensive side of the ball, I think, has been pretty good for ISU. I think you've been a pretty good defensive club, and that's something that, of course, is going to be interesting to see how well Hunter breaks out as a defensive ball player, defending the post. I'm thinking of guys like Amaya and people like that who are the big guns in this league.
Well, Thomas Hunter is a very hard worker, you know, and he plays hard all the time on the floor. He's going to give 110% no matter what, and so he's going to be that. He may be a defensive stopper. He may be the person that goes out and scores 20 points on a given night. Whatever the team needs, he's going to try and do, and that's going to make him a good ball player.
Backcourt is a little deeper. You may get a little breather occasionally.
Yeah, that's definitely a help, and that's always been the case with Coach Bender. Has always had a good rotation with the backcourt, and I think it's going to be even better this year because we have players that come in a little bit more experience, and younger players get to watch some good experience, you know, coming in. So it's going to make them a better player.
Those threes dropping for you?
Yeah, no problem. They got to be dropping. You know, I got a lot of competition. You know, Antonio Cooper shoots the three very well, and I think everybody, you'll see an increase on shooting percentage. Todd Wimhander is starting to knock down the three, so I think we'll see an increase on the three-point percentage as well.
Richard, you had a great career here, and let's hope this 4th year is a wonderful one for you.
Yeah, hopefully the best.
Another co-captain of this year's Redbird squad is senior guard Todd Cagle. The former Normal Community Ironman standout walked on at Illinois State in 1988 and has become a valuable member of the ISU team. Cagle redshirted the 88-89 campaign and has averaged 2.4 points and 1.5 assists per game over his ISU career. Todd is a deadly free throw shooter and has a dangerous three-point ability. Todd, it's hard to believe this is the senior year coming up, huh?
Well, my career's gone by pretty fast, to me at least, and I just want to make the best of a nice career.
Boy, it has been a nice career. You think back coming out of Normal Community with pretty good credentials, but a lot of people said you weren't big enough or quick enough to play at this level. You certainly disproved that.
Well, I knew in my heart that I would be able to play at this level. I just knew it would take a lot of hard work to prove some people wrong, and you know, I'm not done proving yet. Hopefully I can contribute to this team this year, and hopefully we can have a great season.
So thinking man's game, the position you play, and I think that's one of the assets you brought to this team is the ability to think under pressure. You and Richard Thomas both, but those things have to become automatic, don't they?
Well, in a game that's as fast-paced as college basketball is, it's good to be able to think your way through some things, you know, with the quickness. And I know Rich and I, and of course the other guards as well, it takes a little thought process to know what you have to be doing on the floor at all times.
What areas do you think will see the greatest improvement in this ISU team this year?
I think inside play will be much improved. We're a lot stronger, and we have a lot more experience this year. Thomas Hunter will be a nice addition for our inside game, and I just think teamwork should really be at a premium this year.
Is there a problem area?
As of right now, I don't think there is. I'm sure some teams will probably try and expose our weaknesses if they find any. But right now, we look pretty balanced. Hopefully, we can keep that up throughout the season.
You have a great senior year, a great career so far. Good luck to you, Todd.
Thank you.
8 seconds down to 7. Cagle takes the jump shot. He got it! The three-pointer! The Redbirds lead it by 1. The only junior guard on the Redbird squad is Todd Wimhaner, who led ISU in steals and assists last season. Wimhaner is one of Illinois State's best free throw shooters and defenders. Todd is known as an extremely hard-nosed and competitive player. During the Redbird European Tour this summer, Wimhaner hit on 13 of 26 three-pointers. And if he continues his success with the outside shot, he'll be a valuable asset for the Birds this season. The Quincy High School product has averaged nearly 5 points and 3 assists per game while at ISU. And despite being only 6'2", he led ISU in rebounding 4 times last season. Todd, you and I were just commenting off camera a little bit. You're eager to get going.
Yeah, I think I'm ready to get going. The whole team's ready to get going. I think we're together a lot more this year, and that's going to be a factor in this season.
This is a veteran ball club. I was kidding Bob Bender. Your stats coming off last year are a lot more impressive than they were 2 years ago. Not yours individually, but the entire squad. There's reason for a lot of optimism.
Yeah, I think so, just because I think that we know what the coaches want now. Everybody's working together and not individual things. And I think they're going to come up more this year than last year even.
What do you feel about the overall schedule? You've looked at it, you're familiar with the Valley teams, and you got some pretty good non-conference opponents. I guess I should ask you this, Todd. How important in your mind are the non-conference ball games?
I think the non-conference games are important to us, and plus the Valley. We need to get the Missouri Valley some recognition. And if we come out and win 3 or 4 out of the non-conference games, that's going to put us right up at the top, and then we have to take care of the teams in the conference, which in any given night a team can beat anybody. So I think everybody's looking forward to it, and we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, and the Valley needs to chalk up a winning record against non-conference opponents. It would help in the postseason tournament draw considerably.
Oh, considerably, just because we play top-notch teams. Tulsa, plays all those teams down in Oklahoma. Southern plays good teams. So if we get a couple wins there, then they'll start looking at the Missouri Valley as a top conference. So I think that'll help us a lot.
You're a fine defensive player. We all know that. One of the premier defensive players in the Missouri Valley Conference. But I heard a rumor you're shooting the ball pretty well this year now. Is there any truth to that?
I'm shooting the ball better, but I think I'm going to still concentrate on defense, stop their leading guard scorer, and hopefully, come out with victories this year. That's all that counts.
Yeah, but you're a do what I have to do to win guy, because I saw you at Quincy High School. You were a pretty good shooter in high school because the load was on you, so you can fill that role if you have to.
I think everybody on the team is going to fill that role, make the big shots when it's necessary, so we don't drop down in any player on this team, and I think that's what counts for this team.
Yeah, we're not shot shy at all, are we?
No, I think everybody's going to take their shots, and I think the biggest thing about this team is if they miss a shot, make a shot, they're going to go back and play defense, and our defense is our offense, so I think that's what counts.
Sound like a coach.
Not yet.
Todd, good luck to you. Have a big year.
Thanks.
Also at the guard position is sophomore Chad Altadonna from Centralia, Illinois. The 6'3" guard is known for his excellent shooting skill and outstanding free throw ability. Chad shot almost 93% from the line last season. Altadonna got off to a rocky start last season, but finished strong. He hit 12 of his last 16 field goal attempts and 19 of his last 20 free throws. In MVC play last year, Chad shot 63% from the field, 50% from three-point range, and 95% from the free throw line. The newcomer this season at the guard position is 5'9" Antonio Cooper from Phoenix, Illinois, and Thorn Ridge High School. Cooper is an extremely quick player who can shoot the three-pointer and dunk the ball. Antonio averages 16 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds, and 2 steals per game for the Falcons over his high school career. Cooper is an excellent player who will add an exciting dimension to the Redbirds, also the third-place finisher in the triple jump in the AA state track meet last year. Experience is the key word at the forward position this season. Junior Scott Taylor returns after recording 28 starts last year. Taylor is a versatile athlete who was the leading scorer and rebounder on this summer's European Tour. Taylor was the Redbirds' second leading rebounder last season and was named Missouri Valley Player of the Week last February. Taylor graduated from South High School in Newton, Massachusetts, then attended Bridgeton Prep Academy before coming to ISU. Scott averaged almost 9 points and 5 rebounds per game last season. Scott, you have to be looking. I've asked everybody here the same question, so I want to change it a little bit. But the fact remains, there's an air of optimism in this camp. I think that maybe wasn't apparent a year ago.
Yeah, this year we're really excited. We got a lot of guys coming back and some new faces that can really contribute. So we're even more, willing to get after it and can't wait to start the season.
You had to enjoy that European trip this summer. There's a lot of things probably you liked about that, weren't there?
Yeah, we got to see a lot of things, experience new things on the court, and get used to some new people and see some new faces and places, so it's fun.
Basketball is kind of a stylized sport. I don't think a lot of people realize that. Different people play the game differently. Different countries now. It's a great international game, so you saw some different styles, didn't you?
Yes, overseas, a lot of things different over there was, it was mostly little things like the way they pass the ball. They make different passes, and the way they play it a little more physical, and they're not really worried about fouls too much, so we got a different look over there.
And playing in different type of arenas entirely, weren't you?
A lot different, yeah.
Scott, what do you think your primary job will be on this ball club this year? You did so many things well last year. Is the role pretty similar?
Yeah, my role is pretty much similar to last year. You know, help out in rebounding, help out in scoring, and help out in defense a lot. So pretty much almost all areas.
Preseason practice is drudgery. There's no question about that. You're ready to play a ball game. Even the exhibitions, you look forward to those. But do you think this team will come out of the blocks pretty fast?
I think we should. I mean, you know, like I said, we have a lot of guys returning, and the coaches do a good job of showing the new guys what's going on, and we do too, so we feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, the early schedule is kind of exciting. So you'll easily get up for clubs like DePaul, of course, here in Evansville, and Butler's a fine team. There's a lot of teams you'll get ready for.
Yeah, from the beginning, you know, we have a lot of great teams, like you said, so we're going to be up for it, and we have a lot of high anticipation for it, so we're ready.
Well, Scott, a lot of people enjoy watching you play, and I'm one of them. Good luck to you. Have a big year.
Thanks.
Another returning forward is senior Steve Fitch. The 6'6" junior college transfer from Lincoln Community College is probably remembered most for his earth-shattering dunks last season for the Birds. And Fitch is an explosive player with outstanding physical ability. Steve averaged over 8 points and 2 rebounds per game last season. Also at the forward position is 6'8" Mike Vandegaard, who was arguably the most valuable sixth man in the MVC last season. He led the Valley in block shots and was the Redbirds' leading scorer in Missouri Valley Conference contest and second leading scorer overall. Mike received honorable mention All MVC honors last season and first team All MVC defensive team honors and the Diet Pepsi MVC postseason tournament honor as well. Vandegaard hails from Bloomington, Minnesota. He was named Player of the Year for the Minneapolis area his senior season at Jefferson High School. Mike averaged almost 10 points and 5 rebounds per game last season. He'll be a likely starter at a forward position this season. Mike, the first thing I have to ask you, you're slated to start this year. Now, when are you going to pick up your first foul?
Well, that's always been one thing that I do a lot of is fouling, but that's just my style. It's real aggressive and real intense, and I get a lot of fouls, and I kind of got to work on that this year.
Yeah, that's kind of a mental thing with you, isn't it? Because if you are a starting role, as opposed to being a backup player like you were a sixth man, you don't want to get in foul trouble early.
Yeah, I'm going to have to play a little bit more minutes this year, and the only way I can do that is if I don't have fouls. So that's the start of it. You know, if I'm playing well, I can't get my third and fourth foul and be sitting on the bench.
What do you think of the Missouri Valley Conference this year from a player standpoint? You've gone head-to-head with these guys for 2 years. You know a lot of them maybe too well.
Yeah, we know everybody up and down the league. There's a lot of players back. This is an experienced league this year, and we're just as good as any team out there. You know, we won the conference last year. We got everybody back. Southern, Tulsa, and everybody else has got everybody back too, but we're just as good as anybody, and I suspect we'll do real well this year.
I haven't talked to anybody in this group yet about winning on the road, but boy, that's really the pivotal thing in the conference race. Of course, you do have a postseason tournament, but the winning away from home, you guys have been decent in that category.
Yeah, we did pretty good at that last year. Anytime you're going to win a championship, you got to win some games on the road, and you got to for sure win your games at home. Yeah. That's the start. You win all your games at home, and then you win a couple here and there on the road. And if you do real well on the road schedule, that's you know, an added advantage going into the tournament.
What's your role going to be with the addition of Thomas Hunter to this ball club? Will you play about the same spot you did last year, kind of a power forward, swing type of spot?
Yeah, I suspect my position and role will be pretty much the same as last year. I think Thomas is going to fill a lot of what Scott Fowler did last year. You know, and Scott Fowler had a lot of points and rebounds for us, so myself is going to have to pick up that slack with a couple more points and a couple more rebounds, and Thomas has got to fill the rest of that. So that's where my role is going to be the same pretty much.
It'd be nice if something would open the baseline for you a little bit more, and maybe Hunter will be able to do that. I know when Fowler was healthy and when Wilson was healthy last year, they were able to do that.
Yeah, that, you know, if they're playing well inside, that helps me out a lot, and if I'm playing well, that helps them out a lot. And so it's, you know, it's kind of a give and take situation inside.
Hey, good luck to you, Mike. Have a big year.
Thank you.
Another forward who is receiving a lot of attention lately is 6'5" Chuck Barnes. Barnes is a slashing player with solid defensive skills. While most of Barnes' action came in a reserve role last season, his improved shooting and scoring gained him a starting nod in ISU's preseason victory over the Arkansas AAU entry. Chuck is a Chicago native, a Whitney Young high school product. Of the newcomers at the forward position, Thomas Hunter emerges as the player everyone has been waiting to see. The 6'6", 235-pound junior college transfer from Collie County Community College in Kansas has already been named MVC preseason newcomer of the year and gives ISU a real force in the middle. Hunter is a strong rebounder with a good shooting touch. Thomas is known for his intensity on defense and is sure to make an immediate impact. The Redbirds have 3 incoming freshmen listed at the forward position this season. 6'6", 210-pound freshman John Litweiler is one of them. Litweiler joined the Birds after a successful high school career at nearby Morton High School. Litweiler averaged 15 points and 9 rebounds per game for the Potters last season. John was named one of the top 6 players in downstate Illinois by the Chicago Sun-Times last year and was Morton's MVP his junior and senior seasons. Litweiler's father, Myron, played basketball for the Redbirds from 1969 to 1972. Also joining the Redbirds this season is 6'7", 235-pound freshman Andy Porter from Geneseo High School. Porter is a walk-on who averaged 20 points and 13 rebounds per game during his senior season at Geneseo. Porter will bring some additional size to the Redbird roster. The final newcomer at ISU this season is 6'7", 215-pound freshman Andy Hawkins. The London, Ohio native comes to ISU as the leading scorer in London high school history with over 2,000 points. Hawkins will redshirt this season, but will be allowed to practice with the team. Hawkins is the first player redshirted by Bob Bender in his 4 years at ISU, but with 8 players on the roster between 6'6" and 6'8", including 4 juniors, it might not come as a surprise that Hawkins will sit out this season. Hawkins is a versatile and flexible player who can play on the perimeter and go inside. The graduation of center Scott Fowler last season comes as ISU's biggest loss from last season's roster. Fowler was the Redbirds' leading scorer and rebounder, but returning at the center position this season is big man Brian Kern. ISU's tallest player at 6'9", Kern received valuable experience last season and lost 15 pounds thanks to a rigorous conditioning program. The 231-pound Vandalia native averaged just over 3 points per game last season and will look to improve on both his scoring and rebounding this season. Despite his size, Kern is an excellent shooter and can shoot the three-pointer. The success of the Birds may depend a great deal on how well this big man plays. We hope you've enjoyed this preseason look at the 1992-93 Illinois State Redbird basketball team. Be sure to watch both the Redbird men and lady Redbird basketball teams this season on Telecable Channel 10.